This is the tutorial on the developmental assessment of young children, or also known as the Dayc 2. The purpose of this assessment is to help identify children who are significantly below their peers in the following domains: cognition, communication, social emotional, development, and adaptive behavior abilities. The test is broken up into those 5 domains. So we're going to get started with the cognitive domain. First, in section 1, we're going to identify the patient, female, male, record when the date was tested, or the date it was tested, the date of birth, and for this assessment we calculate everything when age in months. So in order to figure out the age in months, we're going to go over here and we're going to subtract the date tested and the date of birth. So we're going to write the date tested, which comes right from section 1, and the date of birth. Okay, so since we can't take 24 out of 16, we're going to borrow from months. 46 minus 24 is 22. Since we can't take 12 away from 8, we're going to borrow again. And then so since there are 12 months in a year, we add 12 and we get 20. And then 20 minus 12 is 9. 2014 minus 2011 is 3. And then since we record everything in months, we have to convert the years into months. So we'll multiply it by 12 since there are 12 months in a year. And we get 36 plus 9 equals 44 months. And then we don't do anything with the days, but we do list it over here in the age. So we're going to write for the year, we're going to write 3 years, 9 months, and 22 days. And then we have 44 months. So the starting point of the assessment is determined by the child's age. So since the child's age is 44 months, we will turn to section 5. Go to entry score and find 44 months. So 44 months falls right under here, the 36 to the 47, and it looks like we start on item 40. So we go find item 40. We're going to circle it. So for every question, we start on 40, and for every yes, they get 1 point, and for every no, they get 0 points. We would administer the items until 3 consecutive items receive a 0. So we're going to go down, and we see there's 3 zeros here. So we're going to go 44 to 46. Once we get here, these 3 scores are considered the ceiling. After we find that, we will look at the previous items before the ceiling and find the first 3 consecutive items that receive a 1. And we go up. And here we are, 30 to 32. Once we get here, these scores are considered the basal. Now that we identified the ceiling and the basal scores, we can figure out the raw score. In order to calculate the raw score, we go back to each item before the basal, so 30, starting from 30 to 32, and give them 1 point, including the basal, and all of those items that received 1 point in between the ceiling and the basal. So in other words, we're going to go all the way until the end of the basal, so that's 32 points because all of these will receive 1. So we have 32. And then we're going to go through the items in between the basal and the ceiling and count all of the items that received a 1. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going to add the 32 and the 6, which gives us the raw score of 38. So we're going to go back to the first page, find raw score, and write 38. Next is the age equivalent. In order to find this, we have to pull out the Appendix A and find the raw score. In the Appendix A, under the raw score of 38, it is 29. So we're going to put 29 at age equivalent. Next is to convert the raw score into a standard score. In order to do this, we pull out Appendix B. We go to the table that reflects the actual age which is 44 months. We will find the raw score, go across to the right category, and we find that the standard score is 77. The next thing is to convert the standard score to a percentile rank. In order to do this, we will pull out the Appendix C. Since the standard score for cognition is 77, the percentile rank is 6. This means that the child performed the same or better than 19% of his sample peers, or 94% of the sample peers scored higher than this child. Up next is the standard error of measurement, which is used to estimate the amount of error in an individual's test score due to less than perfect reliability of the test. The standard error measurement is always 3. Lastly, we determine the descriptive terms. So we go back to section 2 and 3, and we find the standard score of the child, which is 77. So we find where 77 falls, and it's right here under poor. So under this descriptive terms, we write poor. After all domains are completed, we will jump over to the examiner's summary sheet. We will fill out section 1 just like we did for the rest of the domains. And then we will fill out the results for each domain. So here you can see each domain, and I already filled out all the results for time purposes. The next thing that we have to do is the General Development Index, or also known as the GDI. So in order to determine the GDI, we add together all of the standard scores for each domain. So the sum of the standard scores, which is 460. And then we turn to Appendix E, and we find the related GDI score, which is 88. Now that we know the standard score, we can go back to Appendix C to determine the percentile rank. So we do exactly what we did before to figure this out. And the standard score is 88, so the percentile rank is 21. And again, that's in Appendix C. So the last thing we have to figure out is the descriptive term. And again, we find the standard score, which is 88. And we find where 88 falls, and we find that it's below average. And that's how you do